friends, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be creating this class for Crafty Vixens. I've called it Time to Bloom, and we are going to use that stunning butterfly paper from the kit. And I guess you could just leave these flat, but I thought, well, let's take it to the next level and let's make those butterflies dimensional. They're just so pretty. So the first thing we'll need to do is just use a craft knife just to go around the outside of those butterflies. And you want to take your time and just go around the wings of the butterfly, as you can see I'm doing here. But just make sure that you don't cut them out completely, because that will will spoil things. So just go, more or less down to the middle, and then just leave the centre section uncut, as you can see there. And what we'll do is we'll going to back that paper later on with some other paper. Now, I was using a cheap pound shop knife earlier, which was a little bit tough, I have to say. So I've swapped over to a craft knife, and it's made all the difference. So just be sure your knife is nice and sharp. So this is the last butterfly, and that was a real Blue Peter moment. And then for those of you who are in the UK, Blue Peter was a little children's show here in the UK. And they'd always have one that they made earlier, so you can see there. So it looks really pretty with that little bit of dimension. And I'm just going to use this paper here to back it. I've used a bit on my previous class. As Julie and I have mentioned before, that Julie and I are scrapbooking and creating our classes separately. We just kind of need to be sure that we're not using the same things if we can. And you're not going to see much of it anyway. I always like to add a little bit of ink to my edges if I can. So I've used Victorian Velvet for the reds. But you could use another pinky colour. And to make life easy, you can see I've just put a little bit of scrap paper underneath just to mask off the background. But you could equally just use, just fold those up and ink the edges. Completely optional, that step. You'd probably need scattered straw, I'm guessing, for that yellow butterfly if you wanted it. And I'm going to use peacock feathers or broken chine, I have no idea. I think it's peacock feathers, just for those last two butterflies, the blue ones. Completely optional. Now, for those of you who may have just the distress inks, I find them very interchangeable. Obviously, the oxide inks are a little bit more opaque. Mine, because they're newer, always tend to be more juicy, so just be aware of that when you are inking your edges. And you can see I cut a strip of that background paper just to back the background, as it were. Bit of a double thing there. And I'm just going to line that up so there aren't any gaps behind my background. You can see I'm making a right meal of that. So you might just want to trim it down a little tiny bit, just so you've got a bit of leeway if you need to. And most importantly, I've only stuck the edges around the outside, so the butterflies are free and loose, and they're not secured in the middle at all, but you'll find they won't fly off anywhere. So it's looking fantastic already, isn't it? I think it's one of those things that it's a stunning paper, but how do you make it other than just plonk your photos on top? So that's where it was coming from. Now, I have used two photos there. Mine are approximately 3.5 wide by 5 inches tall, and I've printed them with a little bit of a white border around. Now, what I like to do is give you the option for different photos. So you could easily switch this out for a landscape photo, slightly smaller photos, or one large portrait photo. So And you'll just adjust according to your photos. So this is what I've got, but if you've got something different, just make your adjustments on the next stage when you are doing your embellishments. So this is back in the day when my daughter was quite young and was quite happy to be on camera. It's a different story nowadays. So yeah, I was just trying to decide, how can I use, or how can I make this, elevate it slightly. And while I'm thinking about it, what I'll often do is let things permeate, and then I'll go off and do something else and then come back with an idea. So whilst I was waiting for that to happen, what you can see I've done there is laid down some distress ink. So I used Victorian Velvet again, and then spritzed it with water. And I'm using a kind of a roundish paintbrush to make some splatters. Completely optional, and you could use watercolour paint, you could use, kind of more of a pinky colour. I think Victorian Velvet is actually one of those paint ink colours that actually differ between the oxide and the distress ink. I find the oxide ink is a little bit more orangey pink, maybe. But the distress ink is definitely more of the burgundy, pinky red, whatever colour. So, so that's the only one I do find quite different. And while I was on a roll, I thought I'd do the same with the blue there and just sprinkled a bit more of the peacock feathers. And really, the finish is very subtle. I think it was probably more a case of me just trying to fill in a bit of time and decide what I wanted to do. Now, you could do the same with black ink. My black Distress Oxide ink, I don't know about you, I find it a kind of a bit grey black and not inky black. And my Distress ink is more black. I'm just rabbiting now. My Distress ink is more black, but it's very dry, so I can't really do flicks with it. So I'm using some black acrylic paint just to do the same thing really. But, feel free to use one of your inks that you have. I've just used that though because I like it nice and inky black. And then we're just going to mount our photos onto that paper. Let's see if I can find the name of it. Is Live for Today, I think. So that Live for Today has like a straw colour on one side and then those hideous butterflies on the other, which I find far too busy. So, I just took little bits of that and hid it behind other things. It's all right in small doses. How you can make such pretty papers and then such a hideous one, I don't know. Anyway, just to back my second photo, I'm just going to use a bit of that from the centre there, that paper. Now, I'm not sure if I've said the right I didn't realise when I came to write my instructions, but whatever spare papers, you can put them both onto the straw paper. You can use those ugly butterfly side if you wish, whatever papers you've got. It's horses for courses, I think. It's very subtle anyway, you can't really see what I've mounted them on. So I just like to distress and ink my edges, as I've mentioned before, whatever colour you've got. Just to give it a little bit more grounding. And hopefully my paper's dry now, more or less. So this is the fun bit where we lay out our photos and decide how we can embellish. I think I'm going to go for a little torn edge at the top there, just because, why wouldn't you? Just to give it that more shabby chic look. And I do try and make things interesting, but using simple techniques, which is me all over. So, we are aiming the classes at, beginners as well as those that are more advanced. So, if you are more advanced and wish to decorate your background more, you can do so. I kind of wanted the paper to speak for itself, but again, as I say, we're pitching it, so we hope to inspire people to try something different, but equally be attainable for like everybody. So actually what I'm doing first, by the looks of it then, is just adding a little bit of distress ink to my edges, just for a bit of definition. Again, completely optional. And I've just used a bit of black soot there and some of that Victorian velvet previously. I think one of the most common questions that you get are about ink blending. I think we've all got our favourites. I've been using those daubers, which I find really great for edging. If I want to do a big, area of ink blending, then I'll use a makeup brush. So here's that tear that I was talking about before. So I'm just made a tear and I've just eyeballed it. So wherever felt right for my photos. So remember, if you are using different shaped photos or different sizes, you want to try and just line that tear up really, to suit your photos. So yours might be a little bit more over to one side or a bit more towards the centre. Don't get hung up, on precision as to where it should be. So what I'd like to do then is reveal like a paper behind. So I'm just going to use one of those paper scraps just to back that. So here's that hideous colour. Looks all right behind in a small dose, doesn't it? So a bit more faffing around. Well, I hope you really are enjoying these classes. I really enjoy making them with Julie. It's great to choose the papers. It can get stressful sometimes because things don't turn up on time, or things get forgotten, or we've used the same thing. But overall, I think the feedback that we get from people is just fantastic, which makes it all worthwhile. So I'm just going to choose some of the embellishments that I would like to use. So Julie and I tend to kind of pick and choose. So I take a turn, she takes a turn. Otherwise, maybe we'll end up using the same ones. But, if you want something else, don't feel obliged to use what we've used. You need to be mindful, I guess, for the other classes. But when you take a collection kit, you can definitely interchange all the elements with one another. And I'm using the title from one of those 3x4 cards, but equally you can use one of the titles from the kit or make your own title. I think this was my second layout, so again, probably at this point I'm trying to be a little bit frugal just in case Julie needs something for later on. So I've made that tear. I am just going to back it with that paper again, leaving the centre free. And then I've torn the inside of the tear, made some creases, and I've also earlier on had inked the edges. I think I've at this point I've messed up and managed to get it on wonky, so it's not lying flat, but couldn't get it back off, so hey ho. It's for personal use. So in your kit you do have those 2 craft tags. I just stamped on those for you, but feel free, you can flip them over and use this side if you prefer something different. And really you can't see them in my design anyway, so they're just there to anchor some embellishments and to provide a bit of extra texture. So I'm going to keep fiddling around with things. So there are plenty of things. Once you've, I would suggest once you've made, finished the classes, you'll find there's plenty of paper and embellishments left over. Feel free to actually share what you do with them on our group. We'd love to see what you do. because it's a big kit. I think it's much bigger than the previous one. So I know before we will have had stickers, but this time we've got stickers, the chipboard and the die cuts, which is fab. And who doesn't love simple stories? Right, so we seem to spend 5 minutes doing the same thing again and again. So it's not time to stick down. I was just waiting for the black ink to, or the black paint to dry. I just added a little bit more because I'd covered most of it up. I think one of your tags might be slightly different to mine because I couldn't find the stamp I'd used. I don't know what stamp I'd used. It was a mystery. Which just shows you I've got too many. But as I say, it's just there for some texture and detail. So one of my favourite things to do, as you will have noticed, is to create these banners. I think they are really simple. So I tend to keep my paper scraps and whatever's on hand. I can just quickly turn into a banner. You can get these punches for notching out the end. And I have bought one myself. I think it was for washi tape mine, but to be honest with you, it's much easier just to get out your scissors and notch it out. So I've taken some of the stickers from the 12 by 12 sticker sheet. I had fussy cut that book plate one that you can see at the top of my photo, and I'm just trying to arrange where everything could go. So it's a little bit back and forth. But I like the way the banner comes out from underneath the embellishment. So it helps to, although I do like, lots of detail, I find personally that I like things that are a bit linear, that, I don't know, maybe I would love to do one of those messy pages or, a really free page, but I don't think it's in me. So I try and practice, but quite frankly, I like things that are linear. So I seem to have skipped a bit there, but at the end of the day, all I've done is added those stickers. I've added my hearts from the Bramble Fox perspectives. And so I've just put those in little clusters. So you can see I've made a little cluster beneath the chipboard. I've made another one on the right, so that in my head the hearts will flow up the page and it will go from the centre then to the right hand side. I also added some Nuvo drops just to add a little pretty delicate touch to those perspectives. So it kind of helps them go further, I think, because you've added a little bit more detail in the same area. And there's that fussy cut title I took from the 3x4 card. I've inked the edges in black just to give it a little definition. I'm just going to loosely glue those into place. And then on the finished layout, I've actually just stitched along the bottom of those journal words in black. So again, just for added detail. Nice bit of my head there. I'm waiting for its colour. Okay, that's looking good. I think on the finished layout also, I've added the doily at the top left, which was probably a bit of an afterthought really. So yeah, so you can see here on the finished layout, above the photo there, I've used half the grey doily. We've also got these butterflies now in the kit. So again from Bramble Fox, you can see I added some butterflies. I also put on some glitter glue on top of my butterflies on the paper, which I really like, so you could do the same. And that's about it. So hopefully you've enjoyed this class and you'll really enjoy making the layout, and I will see you soon. Take care now. See you. Bye.